Okay, guys, let us look at this essay, right? This essay is what is for the topic business cycle, right? So you are being told to discuss in detail the features underpinning forecasting. So when you talk about the features underpinning forecasting, you need to talk about the economic and the non-economic indicators. Remember that your economic indicator, you have your leading, your lagging, your coincident, and then composite. And your non-economic indicators, you have your length, your amplitude, your extrapolation, your moving average, and your trend line, right? So be able to talk about the economic indicators and the non-economic indicators, right? So getting to the introduction. Introduction says what? You need to explain what a business cycle is. And you're saying a business cycle is a successive period of contractions and expansion of economic activity. The meaning of successive, this means, sorry, these are what periods that follow each other, right? So meaning you have your what? You have your expansion, then you have your contraction. You have your expansion, you have a contraction. So that's the meaning of successive. Okay, so let's go through it over again. So a business cycle is a successive period of contraction and expansion of economic activities, right? Now getting to the body, right, the main part, we have our business cycle indicators. Let's start with our economic indicator. Number one is our leading economic indicator. We know that the leading economic indicator, these are the indicators that change before the economy changes, right? So they change first before the economy changes. These are the leaders, right? The second bullet says they give consumers, us, business lenders and policy makers, a glimpse, a picture of where the economy might be heading. They give consumers, business lenders and policy makers a glimpse of where the economy might be heading, right? And then the last point is that when those economic indicators rise, the level of economic activities will also rise in a few months' time. For example, we have job advertising spaces. So in simple terms, the leading indicators, they change before the economy changes. They give us, the business lenders and the policy makers, a picture of where the economy is heading or might be heading. And then lastly, when these indicators rise, the level of economic activities will also rise, right, in a few months to come, right? For example, you have your job advertising space. Then you have your coincident economic indicator. Coincident means is when something happens at the same time, right? So we are saying these indicators, they move at the same time as the economy, right? They indicate the actual state of what? Of the economy. And we are saying the example is what? Is the value of retail sales. So simple, they move at the same time as the economy. They indicate the actual state of the economy. The value of the retail sales, for example, is the value of the retail sales. Then we have lagging indicator. The lagging indicator, they come after, right? So meaning these ones, right, they do not change until after the business cycle has changed its direction. So meaning the lagging economic indicators, they change after the economy has changed, right? And we say they serve to confirm the behavior of the coincident indicators. For example, the value of wholesaler sales in machinery. Right, so we're saying lagging indicator, they change right after the economy has changed, or they change right after the business cycle has changed its direction, right? And we say they serve to confirm the coincident indicator, and the example is the value of what? Of wholesalers sales in machinery. Then we have the composite indicator. We are saying a composite indicator, it is a summary of various indicators of the same type into a single value, right? A summary of the various indicators, right, of the same type into a single value. When we take what the coincident, the lagging and the leading, and then we combine them into a single value, that's a composite indicator, right? Then we have our non-economic indicators. We have our length, right? So our length, we are saying it is the time it takes for a business cycle to move through one complete cycle, right? So if you could remember what the business cycle looks like, right? What it looks like, right? So we have our peak here and our peak there, right? So this is what we call our length. So again, the time that it takes for a business cycle to move through one complete cycle measured from peak to peak, we are calling it a length, right? A time for a business cycle to move through one complete cycle, right, through one complete cycle from peak to another peak, we call it a length, right? So we are saying longer cycle, they show strength. Cycles can overshoot. If a business cycle has length of 10 years, it can be predicted that 10 years will pass between successive peaks or looking troughs in the economy. So meaning if we are saying the business cycle has a length of 10 years, it's going to take 10 years for a business cycle to pass through one peak to another to another peak. So I hope we understand. What are we saying? You're saying the length is the time that it takes for a business cycle to move through one complete cycle. You're saying longer cycles show strength, cycles overshoot, and then the example of this 10 years, right? And you're saying for us to measure it, like we said, the one that we know from peak to peak or trough to trough, we can also measure it through historical records or consensus on business experience. Then we have the amplitude, right? So we are saying the amplitude being the difference between the total output between a peak and a trough, right? So remember, if you could draw your business cycle again, right? This is our business cycle, right? So this is our peak, this is our trough, right? So this distance over here, we normally call it our amplitude, right? Also, the distance between the peak and your trend line is also your amplitude, right? So we are saying your amplitude, right, getting the difference between the total output between a peak and the trough, right? So remember that this side shows the level of economic activity, right? So therefore this distance, right, between the peak and the trough of the next cycle shows the total output. So hence we are saying the difference between the total output between a peak and a trough, it is the intensity, right? So meaning this height, right, of the upswing. Remember, here's our upswing, right? So meaning that's why we are saying this is our amplitude, right? So it is the intensity of the upswing and downswing in an economic activity. A larger amplitude during the upswing indicates a strong underlying forces which result in a longer cycle. The larger the amplitude, the more extreme the changes that may occur. Right, so we are saying the difference between an amplitude is the difference between the total output between a peak and a trough, right? It is the intensity, the height of the upswing, right, and downswing in an economic activity, right? So if it's larger, right, during an upswing, it's going to indicate strong underlying forces, and then also it also indicates there are more extreme changes that may occur. Okay, so then we have our trend line. Remember, this is our trend line. This is our trend line, right? So we are saying our trend line shows the movement of the economy in a general direction. It usually has a positive slope because the production capacity of the economy increases over time, and then it is also known as the long-term growth potential of the economy. So 3 things we are saying shows the movement of the economy in a general direction. Number 2, it shows it usually has a positive, the slope is positive. As you can see, it's upward sloping, right? So this means this is because the production capacity of the economy, it keeps on increasing over time, and also we call it the long-term growth potential. Then you have our extrapolation. Remember, extrapolation means to estimate something unknown from the fact or information that is unknown. So meaning to estimate something that is unknown, right, from the information that is known, right? So you're saying the forecasters, they use past data, example trends, and by assuming that this trend will continue, they make predictions about the future. Then you have the last one, moving averages, right? So we are saying it is a statistical analytical tool used to to analyze the changes that occur in a series of data over a certain period. It is a statistical analytical tool that is used to analyze the changes that occur in a series of data over a certain period of time. And this is an example. So the moving average could be calculated for past 3 months in order to smooth out minor fluctuations, right?